Okay, so if you've been anywhere near tech news lately, AI is just exploding, crypto's picking up steam again, data centers, they're working overtime.
They really are. But here's the thing. All that amazing tech speed, it slams right into a very real, very slow wall.
The American power grid.
Yeah.
We're seeing this huge, unprecedented jump in electricity demand. It's so sharp. Some grid operators are saying AI alone might need the power of, what, 5 big cities by 2030?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of scale forces people to act.
Yeah.
This isn't just, normal planning anymore. Things are moving so fast that regulators are basically having to rethink the rule book for just plugging into the grid.
Right.
So our mission today, let's unpack a really key move happening at a high level to try and get ahead of this power crunch. It's this recent letter from U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright.
Sent straight to FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And you really can't overstate how big a deal this could be, regulatory speaking. Secretary Wright is basically pushing FERC, the independent agency overseeing the big interstate power lines, to create totally new, faster rules.
Custom rules, really.
Yeah.
Designed specifically for these massive energy users.
Yeah, essentially giving them a fast track, a way to connect directly to the main power system and skip what can be, honestly, years of waiting in line. It shows a real shift from the Department of Energy pushing for capacity and speed for these big growth industries.
So let's break down what the sources say is driving this extraordinary pace of demand. I mean, sure, we're all plugging in more stuff at home, EVs, maybe induction stoves.
Right, that's part of it.
But the colossal jump, that's coming from commercial and industrial users. And the sources point directly at one thing: data centers. Loads of them connecting fast, especially the transmission system.
And that location, the transmission system, that's key here, isn't it? These places aren't designed to run off your regular neighborhood power lines.
Not even close. They need huge amounts of power, reliably, all the time. The kind you only really get from the high-voltage transmission system. It just has so much more capacity than the local grids, essential for something sucking down power like a small city.
Okay, so how do we help people visualize the difference between, the big lines and the local ones?
Yeah, good question. Let's use an analogy. Think about roads. The local distribution grid, the wires down your street, powering homes, small businesses.
Okay.
That's like your neighborhood streets, your city roads. They're vital, obviously, but they have speed limits. They're built for smaller traffic loads spread out over the area.
Got it. Local roads. So the high voltage transmission system is...
That's the interstate highway network, built for massive 18-wheeler freight trucks, long-haul travel, moving huge volumes quickly across state lines.
Ah, okay.
These big facilities, the AI data centers, the Bitcoin mines pulling megawatts. They're those giant freight trucks. They need that interstate capacity. Trying to force all that onto local roads, it'd be chaos. Bottlenecks, brownouts, the whole mess.
So the real problem isn't generating the power necessarily. It's the paperwork and process around getting hooked up.
Exactly. When one of these mega users wants to connect to the transmission grid, it sets off this whole chain reaction of studies. All the nearby utilities have to check. It won't mess up the system for everyone else.
And that whole process run by FERC, it takes years.
That's the multi-year delay, yeah. It's thorough, but it's slow. Decentralized, utility by utility.
Which brings us back to Secretary Wright's letter. He's basically saying, forget that slow process. We need a centralized federal fast track.
Which is a pretty fundamental challenge to how things have been done for decades. It shows just how urgent they see this demand issue.
Okay, so if the old way takes years, how does the Secretary actually propose speeding it up? What's the solution on the table?
Well, he's telling FERC, you need to create standardized procedures and, crucially, grant expedited reviews just for these specific types of large power users.
We're talking about shaving years off the waiting time just to get the okay to connect.
And the timeline he's floating, it's incredibly aggressive. Under these new rules, he suggests reviews could maybe be done in just 60 days. 60.
Wow, compared to 3 to 5 years.
Exactly. 60 days is, that's lightning speed in the world of major infrastructure reviews. A seismic shift, really.
So that 60-day idea, that feels like the perfect way to explain this change, right? It's kind of like creating a VIP fast pass for the grid.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
An express lane just for the biggest, most power-hungry users, so they don't get stuck in the general admission line that could hold up important AI or blockchain projects for ages.
It absolutely speeds things up for them.
Yeah.
But, we should probably ask, Does creating this express lane maybe take resources or attention away from other important grid stuff?
Like what? Integrating renewables, maybe? Or making the grid tougher against storms?
Potentially, yeah. Is it creating a kind of two-tiered system where the biggest players get priority? It's presented as pure acceleration, but it's worth considering the trade-offs.
That's a fair point. Though the proposal does have a pretty big string attached, right? To protect the grid and other users.
It does. This is crucial. To even qualify for this fast pass, you have to agree up front to pay for any grid upgrades needed because of your connection.
So, if plugging in your massive data center requires stronger poles or bigger substations, you foot the bill.
You foot the whole bill. And that's maybe why it's presented as a key condition. We're not talking small change here. Upgrading the grid for, say, a 300-megawatt facility could cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay, so requiring the applicant to cover those costs.
It ensures only serious, well-funded projects even apply for the fast track. It kind of weeds out speculators and protects the utilities from having to absorb massive costs for one user.
Right, that reframes it a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about who benefits most directly. The source material is pretty clear. AI data centers and Bitcoin mining operations.
Yeah, those two sectors are definitely the poster children for this demand surge, and they stand to gain hugely from a faster connection process.
But it's not just about them using a lot of power, is it? There's this idea of flexible load that seems important, especially for Bitcoin mining.
That's the critical piece, understanding why something like Bitcoin mining is actually seen as potentially helpful here. It's not just consumption, it's how they consume.
Okay, lay that out. What makes them flexible?
Well, miners need a lot of power, sure. Their computers, their rigs are constantly working to validate transactions, secure the network, that's the hash rate. They run pretty much continuously, which makes their load predictable.
Okay, predictable, but flexible.
Here's the key. Unlike a hospital or a factory making widgets, a Bitcoin mine is what's called interruptible load. You can turn it off or dial it way down almost instantly without causing some major disaster.
Ah, okay. So during a power crunch, like a heat wave.
Exactly. Or if a big power plant suddenly trips offline, the utility can send a signal and boom, the miner's power down in milliseconds.
And that frees up a massive amount of electricity for homes and hospitals.
Precisely. They act like a giant shock absorber, or maybe a safety valve, for the grid. That ability to curtail instantly makes them valuable to grid operators, trying to keep the lights on for everyone else. It adds resilience.
So it's interesting to hear from the industry itself on this. Matthew Schultz, he's the CEO of CleanSpark, Bitcoin mining company. He commented right away.
He did, and he acknowledged, yeah, these rules would speed up connections for flexible loads like Bitcoin mining and data centers. That was his phrase.
And his main takeaway. He called this whole push a major signal that the DOE, the Department of Energy, gets how valuable that flexible demand actually is for making the grid stronger.
So it connects the dots, right?
Mm-hmm.
The needs of these power-hungry industries aren't just a problem. Their specific operational nature could actually be part of the solution for grid stability.
And if you make it faster and clearer to connect and make the big users pay for upgrades, the market implications seem pretty big.
Oh, huge. You already see AI companies and Bitcoin miners fiercely competing for cheap, reliable, often sustainable power sources. This race is actually driving new energy development.
So taking away the regulatory waiting game, that must make investors happier.
Absolutely. If the main hurdle becomes just funding the upgrades, rather than waiting years for a permit that might never come, it completely changes the risk calculation for investing billions in a new facility. It could really unlock a new wave of institutional money over the next decade.
Okay, zooming back out a bit, Secretary Wright didn't just, send this letter into the void. He put FERC on a timeline.
He did put them directly on the clock, asked for a response outlining what actions they'll take within 6 months, and set a hard deadline, no later than April 30th, 2026.
April 30th, 2026. So that date becomes pretty important.
It's the finish line for this specific regulatory push. It really highlights how the speed of grid connection now directly impacts how fast these huge tech sectors, AI, blockchain, can actually deploy and grow.
So bringing it back to you, the listener, tracking all this, what's the big picture takeaway? For me, it shows energy infrastructure isn't just some boring background thing anymore.
No, it's front and center. It's arguably the main bottleneck now for the world's fastest growing technologies. It's less about can the tech work, and more about can we plug it in fast enough to stay ahead.
Which leads to a pretty provocative final thought, doesn't it?
I think so. If the pace of our innovation, how fast we roll out new AI, adopt blockchain, process data, now depends directly on how fast we can physically connect massive power users to the grid.
Then what does the outcome of this April 2026 deadline really tell us?
It tells us something fundamental about the future speed limit of American innovation itself.
Hmm.
We're basically waiting to see if the regulatory gears can turn as fast as the technological ones need them to.
Yeah. Can bureaucracy keep up with the bite? That's the question.
Well, thank you for digging into this with us. It's a really critical intersection of policy and tech.
Absolutely fascinating stuff. And if you found this deep dive useful, maybe share it with someone else who's trying to figure out how power grids and tech acceleration collide. Oh, and while you're at it, definitely follow What Bitcoin Taught Me on Twitter, X, Nostr, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Lots more deep dives there. We'll catch you on the next one.